Computer-assisted coding. First of all, what is it and why do I need it? Okay, as to what it is, this is an KHIMA definition. It is computer software that reads electronic records and produces a set of codes for review and validation by a human coder. Now, in Florida, I was told to stop talking about a human coder because it makes it sound like robots. So if I say Jane, I'm talking about the human coder, if that's all right. Very straightforward. Standard coding process with no computer-assisted coding. You have an EMR or electronic records of some sort are reviewed by Jane, who puts codes into an encoder and they flow through to billing. So fairly standard. If you add CAC, there's a little bit of complexity down the bottom left corner, but basically it's the same process. The codes flow from the system, Jane reviews them. The only difference now is that it's as if a junior coder has been through and has pre-coded the chart for her. She is now an auditor. She audits, blesses the chart, on it goes. So in other words, your existing payment, your existing structure is retained in a computer-assisted coding environment. It's not some whole new, vast system that's going to be installed. That's my understanding of it anyway, and if that's not the understanding that you're getting, then I would ask why. You know, what is the improvement that justifies a big change? Now, why am I doing CAC? Well, because there are opportunities for improvements and accuracy. Do you know, I've been working in this since 1992, and it's only in the last year that I've realised some of the advantages that this technology can bring to you. So this whole industry is, the opportunities for you are enormous. This is what you can expect to see in a computer-assisted coding application. You'll find the electronic chart somewhere, sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right, and there's a set of codes which in this case are on the top. And basically what I'm just going to do is if I click that button there, what then happens is that the computer analyses the available documentation and produces a set of codes. So now the job for the human coder is to look through those codes and just satisfy herself that she is content with what they're showing. And if she is, she moves on. So I'm sure that most people, if not everybody in this audience, will immediately see how this could be making a difference in any organisation. And these, of course, are radiology, but I mean, I'm sure I'm not as good as your coders, but I can work my way through these relatively quickly. And I guess the other point for me is I don't get as tired. When you're trying to code quickly, there's this wash of detail comes over you, and after a while you get weary and maybe you start to make more mistakes than you might like, or you start to slow down. This is not tiring. And the efficiency improvements you can expect are such that you can encourage coders to take breaks. What we have here is what we call the Case Master application, which is a wide-ranging tool which is bringing together some of the information which has been available all along and which we're now starting to harness. And the first thing I'd like to share with you is head in the game. And what head in the game is what Susan referred to earlier, which is if I'm doing cholecystectomies and there's a batch of them, I get pretty good at those. You know, I'm starting to move through them very quickly and my head's in the game and I know what I'm looking for and the codes are familiar. So I start to get very, very quick. And if we can group the cases together in that fashion, we start to multiply our efficiencies and we start to reduce the tiredness which the coder feels when she's working quickly. I'm going to choose normal mammogram because that is one that's often chosen. And the system goes out and it grabs a set of uncoded normal mammograms. And what I do now is my head's in the game. I know from past experience what the codes are for normal mammograms. And basically all I'm doing is I'm checking. I see a Biorads one there. I can see it is a screening mammogram, and over here, that little star is actually telling me that this meets medical necessity. So I'm done. and I'm done. And I'm done. So you know, you can imagine how quickly you can work your way through that without getting exhausted. Now, that's really good, and to my own disadvantage, I would say to you, make sure you've got a problem with screening mammograms before you start using something like that in your decision making, because unless you've got huge amounts of them, you're not going to experience this kind of benefit. What's happened is that as we've been doing all of this work, we suddenly realised there's a huge amount of information we've gathered which is just sitting there, not being used. Let me show you. You can expect all of this sort of information. That one. This is that same application you just saw, which is now available from Susan's PC in Birmingham. And what you can do is you go through into the Reports tab, you set a date range, you set some coding parameters of interest, and it will pull that data and put it up on your screen in real time. So you might be interested in, for the last week, what's the average amount of time it's been taking to do X, Y, Z? How many cases have been through the CAC system but have not been coded? What's the total time taken on radiology outpatients this week? And what we're doing with it is, believe it or not, before I went to medical school, I worked in production planning. The opportunities for forward planning and prediction and looking at your coding resources and what do I need to do to bring down my AR days, and you can get to the point where you can say, based on the last 6 months' data, if I had one coder for 1 day a week, I would be able to bring down our AR by a certain amount of time, and all the data's there. You start looking at efficiency and accuracy, and then you start looking at head in the game opportunities, and then you start looking at workforce opportunities. This is big. It's even bigger than I thought. And you know, which is great. I'm really excited about it. Hopefully you'll agree that we're on the right path and that this is the sort of stuff that's going to make a big difference.